Time now for Down to the Wire here on Vegas Insider. We welcome you to this new show. I am Kevin Rogers, and it's good to be here. Our second show today, at least on Vegas Insider. If you checked out earlier, Joe Osborne chasing that paper at 11 a.m., you could find that on our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider TV. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern from Monday through Friday. You can check that again tomorrow with Joe, and we'll be with you at 6 o'clock Eastern from Monday through Friday, and we have a lot of football to discuss moving forward, and baseball season continuing. A light night in baseball. We'll go over some of our top picks for the night, some of our top props for the night. All of that is straight ahead. Also, Patrick Everson, he is going to join us coming up in just a little bit, and Patrick, who announced today that he is officially with Vegas Insider. He's been covering the scene, the sports gambling scene, for a long time in Las Vegas at different outlets, and he's actually at the Cosmopolitan, if you're cool, but the Cosmopolitan Casino on the Strip. He is going to join us from there in just a few minutes, and Patrick has got a lot of good insight on where the money is going, where the tickets are. He talks to the odds makers, and he's got a lot of good info on that. Some of the teams, actually, that Patrick has to discuss as far as going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, teams that have had the most handle so far. Kind of interesting to see which ones. One is not really a shocker, but a couple you're like, why are people having such big dreams on them? So we're going to talk about that with Patrick coming up in a few minutes. And also Major League Baseball tonight. You have the Subway Series resuming in the Bronx between the Mets and the Yankees. So that is a big one, considering the Yankees did struggle. I mean, they struggled for a while now over the last month, but they struggled against the Mets when they played them last month at Citi Field. And now Max Scherzer is going to start for the Mets tonight. So we'll look at that game in a bit. That's one of the showcase games in Major League Baseball. Also Brewers-Dodgers, another big game. And you have in the NFL tonight, Falcons-Jets to wrap up week 2 of the preseason. Then we get to week 3 of the preseason coming up later this week. And then mercifully, the preseason will be over with, a week off. And that week 1 will be week 1 of college football will be underway. You have week 0 this Saturday in college football. So a lot going on with the football scene. And the good news is that we're starting now to kind of get you ready for it. This show, Down to the Wire, basically the name behind it, getting you close towards the games that are starting up in just a little bit. So we want to get you all of the information and help you win your bets. That's what we're here for. And even though, there's a lot of people that maybe aren't huge baseball fans, or they kind of checked out on baseball with football already in full swing. I mean, preseason, and these games are exhibitions, but people are still interested in them. You still have with baseball, at least a lot of good pennant races, a lot of the races with the MVP, Cy Young, still undecided. So a lot going on as we venture into this part of the year. And I know the slow part of the year with baseball in July and in August, people are kind of like, let's just get to football. Well, guess what? Football is here, and the preseason is here. So that's very good news. And even better news is that the preseason is almost over with. So that's actually a really good thing. So with all of that being said, you know what we're going to do right now, since we want to get this to you as soon as possible. Oh, well, Patrick's going to join us just a second, so we'll wait on our picks. We have a couple of we have 2 picks for tonight for Major League Baseball, 2 sides that we're going to look at in probably like 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes, and also 2 props to keep an eye on. I like to focus on the strikeout props. So once we get those going, I have videos that I put out every day for Vegas Insider at Vegas Insider TV on YouTube that highlight those. So in case you missed those today, we're going to go over them tonight for the games in Major League Baseball coming up in just a little bit. You have less than an hour until the first games start. And again, Mets-Yankees is the main game on the docket. Also, the one makeup game, Royals beat the White Sox earlier today, 6-4. And Chicago, who had their game rained out against Cleveland yesterday, they have to make the trip to Kansas City. They got down 4-0 in the first inning. The White Sox ended up tying it, but then the Royals pulled away and won the game 6-4. Some of the other games coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, Reds and Phillies from Philadelphia. Phillies are a massive favorite in that one with Noah Syndergaard pitching. Also, Braves Pirates from Pittsburgh. And that's going to be one of our best bets we'll focus on. The Braves, a heavy favorite there on the road at PNC Park. Angels and the Rays in St. Pete. And the Angels off a rough weekend. I mean, it's been a rough season for them. I mean, 52-69 for a team that was in first place, it felt like a long time ago, and then they totally went sideways. But they had Shohei Ohtani on the mound last night, and he ended up getting the loss, or yesterday afternoon. Now they go to face the Rays today. Rangers-Twins wrap up their 4-game set in Minnesota, and that was a 7:10 first pitch. Cardinals-Cubs at Wrigley. They start at 8:05. And you have Jordan Montgomery and Drew Smyly on the mound, a couple of lefties. The late games, Marlins, A's, also Brewers, Dodgers. And the Dodgers at 84-36 so far on the season, which is absolutely insane that this team just keeps pumping it out every single year, these crazy regular season records. And I mean, the irony is the one World Series they had it in the shortened season back in 2020. But we'll see what the Dodgers do. Obviously, it's going to be a very good postseason in both the American and National League. I mean, everyone thought it was going to be Astros-Yankees. Now it's not a guarantee with the Yankees, the way they've been playing of late, even though they beat the Blue Jays yesterday. But in the National League, seeing what the Mets have done, what the Dodgers have done, the Cardinals have played very well. Recently, they just swept the Diamondbacks on the road. Milwaukee's still hanging around. You have San Diego with all the moves they made, getting Juan Soto at the trade deadline from Washington. And the Padres had some issues with the Nationals this past weekend as well. And they had a couple one-run wins. It wasn't very pretty. But you're going to have a lot of really good things going on in the National League as well. All right, the buildup is here, and we can bring him in. Patrick Everson. He is live at the Cosmo on the Strip, and he is now a member of Vegas Insider. Patrick, it is good to see you again. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I apologize for the delay there. A little bit of trouble with the 5G/Wi-Fi, and I was like, okay, how the hell am I going to make this work? So I figured out, got the Wi-Fi settled up. So my apologies for the delay, and huge thank you for letting me join you today. I appreciate it.
No problem. And for those of you out there that don't know Patrick's work, I actually met Patrick for the first time 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. Myself and Joe Osborne, we had dinner with Patrick Everson, and Patrick has been covering the sports gambling scene for a long time. Before we get into some of the NFL nuggets, just tell us quickly your background and what you've done on the floor in Vegas covering this scene.
Well, I guess in a nutshell, just trying to provide, informative, entertaining, and actionable information from behind the sportsbook counters. Just looking to, through my sources, and I have a ton of sources here, obviously right behind me here at the Cosmo, which, by the way, now is a BetMGM sportsbook. So they had a little reveal today for that, a little gathering for that just wrapped up as this becomes a BetMGM book. It's a great property. It's a fun place to come and check out a game. But I've got, several sources behind the counter at BetMGM, Superbook, Caesars, Circa, South Point, et cetera, WinBet, and so on. And they've all just been really helpful and given me a whole lot of access to get good insights that I just try to relay onto, in this case, Vegas Insider readers and followers and viewers in hopes that maybe that's maybe a small component of their puzzle for how they decide how to bet a game or even if to bet a game.
Now, Patrick, you are going to do a lot of writing and videos for Vegas Insider. I got a quick sneak preview of one of your videos looking ahead to NFL futures and what the people are on. I want to go through some of these team by team and what you've heard. Now, the first team, the Los Angeles Chargers, it feels like the last few years, Justin Herbert has made a big impact there. They fell short of the playoffs last year, losing that overtime game to the Raiders. But now the Chargers, this AFC West, very competitive. The AFC, very competitive. We saw what the Bengals did last year coming out of nowhere. People are really high on the Chargers to win the Super Bowl this year. Is that what you're hearing?
I'm definitely hearing that from more than one book. In the case of that video, that was from the Superbook. I was talking with Casey Degnan. He is a senior risk supervisor there at the Superbook, and he said definitely the Chargers are popular. Obviously, you mentioned Justin Herbert seems to be coming along. And in addition, it sounds like they've made a couple of additions on the defensive side of the ball. He said the Chargers of late, especially, have been a pretty popular team. He said they took a 5-figure play. He didn't say anything more than that, but I would assume even if it's a low 5-figure play, they recently took a 5-figure play on the Chargers at the Superbook at 14-1. And between that and probably, I'm guessing, some other action that's come in on the Los Angeles Chargers, which I still have a hard time saying as an old AFC West guy, very much used to the San Diego Chargers thing. They moved Los Angeles into 10-1. So they're right there in that mix with the Bills at the top, and then you've got the Bucks and the Packers and the Chiefs. The Chargers are right in that mix for sure.
Now, another team that you mentioned, Patrick, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who we don't know who the quarterback is right now, who's the starting quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger was there forever. You knew you'd get out of them. Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season yet. It's between Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky. I'm not even sure who's going to be the starter right now, but even at 100-1, you said people are betting this and the line's not moving?
It's not moving, which I think really probably just tells you the story right there, Kevin. You got, the Superbook opened the Steelers 100-1. They're at 100-1 right now. But as Casey told me, he's like, look, there isn't a shift that goes by that I work where I'm not seeing Steelers bets come through. He said sometimes it's just the little, the $10 simple bets at 100-1. Somebody hoping to turn a little into a nice little chunk, $1,000 or what have you. But he said it's adding up. So the Steelers are certainly a liability behind the counter at the Superbook, but the Superbook isn't taking the Steelers that seriously. Not that concerned. I shouldn't say not taking them seriously, but they're not that concerned with any of those tickets actually getting anywhere close to the finish line and having a chance to cash. But again, so obviously it's probably Steelers. The Steelers are definitely a very public team, always have been. There are Steelers fans all over the place. They travel well, as we see when they're playing in primetime games. You'll hear a Steelers crowd sometimes outshine the home crowd, depending on where they're playing. But and that's showing up in terms of bets too. But probably more so a very much public play.
Now, another team that from the AFC, you're not your hometown team. I know you're a Denver Bronco guy because you're from Colorado, yep. But the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes.
A ton of handle on them. A lot of people. Is this just a local thing? Because you said that the Raiders, a lot of action on them to win the AFC this year or to win the Super Bowl this year. Mm-hmm. But is that just a local thing, or a lot of people really buying into the Raiders as a threat?
I think it might be a mix of both. Primarily in the case of the Superbook, for the article and the video that's up now at Vegas Insider, it's more a local thing. They're getting heavily hit here. The Superbook operates in multiple states now, and by the way, more to come, which is always great news when places like Superbook and Circa and so forth are expanding into these other states. I think people like it, and it's certainly good for the competition of those states. But here at the Superbook, with the Superbook, I should say, it's predominantly a local thing. They're getting hit pretty hard. A lot of, so obviously there's some public play and certainly some believers among the public. Adding Devontae Adams certainly spices things up a little bit. And they opened 40-1 at the Superbook and tightened into 20-1, such as the action that they're seeing at the Superbook. If you do like the Raiders, hey, I would say shop around a little bit. You can certainly, as your screen indicates there, you can get better numbers elsewhere. I do think it's pretty heavy local influence. And that's kind of the thing. And I've mentioned this a lot. I think you and I even discussed it with Joe when we all had dinner a couple of weeks back, is, as sports betting expands more and more into more and more states, you will see this local bias show up, and the operators are going to have to react to it. And in some cases, it's going to be to a bettor's advantage, whether it's with that particular team or another team that they have to adjust, or vice versa.
You also said, Patrick, the Buffalo Bills, they're the favorites. That crazy game against Kansas City last year. Josh Allen was great, but the defense couldn't hold it, and the Chiefs ended up winning. But people are still believing in Buffalo. Is there value in the Bills taking them to win the Super Bowl?
That's a really good question. I mean, right now, my opinion is no. My opinion is let's get a couple of games in and, maybe even have them get upset once, or lose a couple games out of their first four that maybe takes a little luster off, and then you might get a better number knowing that that's a really good team, and they should certainly be around at the end of the season. But that said, obviously a very popular team. I don't think most books open Buffalo. They had them high up. I don't think they necessarily opened them the favorite. Now they seem to kind of be the consensus favorite. at most shops. So, and they are taking a lot of tickets and money. They're certainly taking tickets and money at Superbook. I spoke with a couple of people at Caesars a couple of weeks back. Caesars is just inundated with Bills tickets and money. Might even be their top liability, which is interesting because the number is short. And a lot of times, even if you got a lot of tickets and money, if it's on the favorite at a relatively short number, that might not be their worst outcome. There's one or two books I've talked with that are like, yeah, we do have a lot of Bills tickets and money, but honestly, they're okay for us right now. They're a short number, and we've got more liability built up on teams that are at slightly longer, or even in the case of like the Steelers and so forth, much longer odds.
Patrick, who's the most popular team to bet on in the NFC? We talked a lot about AFC. I mean, you basically have four teams: Bucks, Packers, Cowboys, Rams. Like, those are the four that people are going to look at. Which one have you heard has been the most bet on?
Oh, I think the Bucks are probably the most bet on. It's interesting. It's not often, I don't think, where a Super Bowl champion can kind of be an under the radar team, as under the radar as they can be as the Rams can be at 10 or 12 to 1 or whatever they're floating around at right now. I do think they're kind of under the radar. The Bucks with Tom Brady, it's just kind of, overcoming that. And obviously the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, that's always going to be in the public's wheelhouse. Both those teams certainly taking a fair amount of tickets and money. But I haven't heard much in the way of necessarily the Bucks or the Packers being bad outcomes. But as I alluded to, I also haven't heard people saying, oh, we're really worried about the Rams. Maybe that happens, but I'm not hearing right now that they're worried about the Rams, which is kind of an interesting thing to say about a defending Super Bowl champion.
Now, obviously, Patrick, off the top of your head, I don't think you have the numbers of what the Bengals were last year as far as the ticket counts or any of that, but who's that team this year that no one is talking about that you think could be a surprise that the books aren't really even paying attention to?
Well, and I wouldn't say that they're not necessarily paying attention to, but but maybe being overlooked. It depends on the book, I think. But I had a good conversation, a little back and forth with Alan Berg, and this was a couple of months ago. He heads up WynnBET, which is Wynn's sports betting operation outside of Las Vegas. So in all the other states that WynnBET operates in, it's based here, but it doesn't handle Vegas. It handles all the other states. Alan said something that I thought was interesting. He thinks the Indianapolis Colts might be that team. Now, granted, the Colts number is not what the Bengals number was at this time last year. I don't think people saw the Bengals jumping up like that, making a playoff run, getting all the way to the Super Bowl, and even having the ball with a chance to win a Super Bowl. But I thought that analysis was interesting on the Colts. And a couple of days ago, there was a big super contest weekend took place this weekend. There were a lot of smart guys in town hanging out at the Superbook, and I got a chance to talk to a couple of them. And one of them, I just said, hey, he was just kind of throwing stuff at me, and he mentioned a couple teams that he thought were interesting. He brought up the Broncos because he knows I'm a fan. But I said, hey, what do you think of the Colts? And he's like, love them. Absolutely love them. Not sure necessarily about the Super Bowl. He said he bet them all the way down on their odds to win the AFC South. He bet them at plus 140, plus 130, plus 120. Loved it. So a rather sharp guy, pretty smart guy, a guy who lays very much under the radar himself. Felt like that was a team worth a look.
Now, as far as the preseason goes, Patrick, I know people just love football to bet on the preseason. Is there anything more amazing than what you've witnessed with the Baltimore Ravens and last night they do it again? I mean, they keep winning, they keep cashing. It's unbelievable what John Harbaugh has done in the preseason.
I agree, and I don't know how to explain it. I think I saw this goes back to like September 9th of 2015 or something, or 2016. Basically, whatever the last, or not September 9th, that would be a little bit too late, but early September. So basically the last game of either 2015 or 2016, I can't remember which. Doesn't matter. It's 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it is. I've never seen anything like it. Generally coaches don't put a whole lot of stock in the preseason. They want to rotate players through. They're not necessarily thinking about winning games. The one thing that they're getting smarter about, I think, is not kicking field goals to send preseason games to overtime. When you factor all that in, it's just amazing that this team not only is 22-0 straight up, but 20-2 against the spread. And a lot of these wins, last night's was not. It was a touchdown, I believe a touchdown victory. But I believe double digits of these wins have been by double-digit margins. I don't get it, but I'll tell you what, it kind of takes the attitude that it's just degenerates betting preseason football and says, hey, you know what? There's some there. And if you look around, you probably ought to be betting some preseason football. And if you've been on the Ravens bus, congratulations for getting on it, and I hope you got on it early. But to your point, it's baffling that they're winning all these preseason games. It's really baffling.
Now, speaking of the preseason, Patrick, tonight, week 2 wraps up. The Falcons and the Jets, they meet in New York, New Jersey at MetLife Stadium, and the Falcons favored. Zach Wilson's not going to play. The Falcons have been a terrible preseason team. But what have you heard as far as ticket counts, where the money's going? Obviously, the line has gone from 1.5 to 4.5 on Atlanta's side. But what have you been hearing with the splits tonight?
I'm going to see. If I minimize this, will I go away? Because I'll have numbers in front of me if I can minimize the camera. Do you know, does that cut me off or not?
You know what? We're going to just go with it. Let's see.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, do you got me?
I hear you, but I'm going to trust you on this one.
Okay, trust me on this one. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go into, if I go into my inbox, I'll have the latest stuff. So this will be coming to you from, I believe from, let's see. Here we go. A little preseason information from DraftKings on tonight's game. Talking the spread, are you seeing Falcons 3.5? Basically, is that the number?
Let me see. Hold on. Let me see what I got here. Hang on a second. Hang on. I got 4.5. Wait, hold on. 4.5 at a lot of places. 4.5 at DraftKings. 4.5 at Circa.
Yeah, this has probably jumped up, but at least the latest from DraftKings. So now at 4.5. So keep that in mind. But I would call it, somewhat two-way action, but with a lean toward the Falcons tonight in terms of tickets and money. And for those who have seen, the Hall of Fame game in week 1 of the NFL preseason, very heavy to the over. There's been some regression to the norm throughout week 2. In fact, the under in week 2 is 8-7. Not nearly as dominant as the over was in week 1, but at least starting to make up some ground. And that's got, the total's getting two-way play at DraftKings as well. A little bit of a lean to the over on the bet count, but a lean to the under on the money count, which people are maybe acknowledging that regression to the mean on tonight's game.
Yeah, I saw you had a few more unders come in this past weekend simply because you just didn't have the craziness of week 1 with the preseason. And Patrick, before we let you go, I want your opinion on this one thing. I know you may not have concrete numbers, but you're gonna spitball a little bit for me just because. Sure. Week 1, Monday Night Football, Broncos Seahawks in Seattle. Russell Wilson's return to Lumet Field, and they're laying 4.5, 5 in that one. Everyone is going to rush to take the Broncos in week 1 just because. Do you buy into that, or do you think Seattle can maybe shock them?
I don't know if they can shock them, but I do look, and part of this is me being a little bit pessimistic sometimes, as a little bit gun shy as a Broncos fan. I'll rarely bet my team, except I'll throw a Super Bowl ticket on them every single year. That's always just a fun bet, and obviously it's paid off a couple of times. But I worry they might be piling on the Broncos a little too much. I'll tell you, in fact, on Friday night, I was telling you a bunch of sharp guys were in town over the weekend, Super Contest weekend, a lot of smart people hanging around, and the same gentleman that was pretty keen on the Colts this season is not necessarily he says, look, Russell Wilson, absolutely a big upgrade from what Denver had, but he's not convinced that this is going to be a super great season for Denver. And it might be a little bit more difficult road than people think, even though Denver's greatly upgraded at quarterback. He's not sold on it. I worry a little bit at 4.5 or more. I would probably being a Bronco fan, I'd probably just stay away. But if you were like, hey, you have to bet this, I might be taking 4 on the hook, or maybe even sitting tight and seeing if I can do a little better, even though those are kind of dead number ranges there.
Well, I'm looking at it now, Patrick. I'm seeing 5.5, 6.
Oh,
so
boy.
It's not going to go lower.
Yeah. I'm not interested in Denver at that number. If you're like, okay, Patrick, you have to bet this, I probably if it's at 6, I might even lay the 6 with Seattle or maybe sit tight and see if somehow it gets a little more beyond that. I don't know if you can get 6 in the hook, but I'll take the 6 with Seattle.
Yeah, that seems like a lot. An interesting spot. I mean, you have Russell Wilson playing the Seahawks. You have Baker Mayfield now the starter for Carolina playing Cleveland. So you had a couple storylines there. But Patrick, though, we are very excited to not only have you at Vegas Insider. That's number one. We welcome you. But
appreciate
secondly, you are going to be a part of this show as well to give us the updates going into the weekends with NFL, with college football. get all the breakdowns. You're on the ground floor, so we're very excited to have you not only just tonight and welcome you, but also have you a part of Down to the Wire moving forward as well.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it, Kevin. And again, I apologize. We had a little hiccup at the beginning. I was like, wait a minute, why? And I know better. I should know better. The Cosmo is always a little futzy. So if you go to the Cosmo, make sure you get dialed good into their Wi-Fi, because the 5G just doesn't work at all, and it's a little tricky. So I got a little waylaid by the trickiness because I haven't been out here all summer. But now the football season's here, I'll be back in my element, and I'm definitely looking forward to being part of your show. I'm grateful that you'll have me. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should be good, and we'll talk to you again next week, because we have week 1 of college football starting next week, so we're really looking forward to it. So Patrick Everson, you could find him on Twitter right there at @PatrickE_Vegas. He's part of Vegas Insider right now, giving a lot of great information to all of you viewers out there. Patrick, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
You bet. Appreciate it, Kevin. Have a good night.
All right, you too. That is Patrick Everson, and he's going to be joining us on Down to the Wire. Pretty much, then we're going to look at Fridays with him once we get the NFL started, and in 2 weeks, once we get to week 1 of the NFL, or at least leading into that, he can get you pretty much the ticket counts, the percentage of where the money's going, all of that. And people handicap things differently, which is great. Everyone does their thing differently, but you wonder, okay, you look at this Denver-Seattle game, for instance, week 1, the Monday night game, Russell Wilson's return. That line is jumping. Are you going to jump on Denver even still with no faith in Seattle and their quarterback situation? Or do you say, whoa, this is getting a little bit out of control, too much money on Denver right now? Oh, I don't have anything up there as far as where the money is, but we'll get that going to week 1. Or do I just back off and say, you know what, let me take the points with Seattle. I'm not going to mess around with this. So Patrick's going to give us a lot of good information, and you can check out his work at Vegas Insider. Now he is part of Vegas Insider. All right, let's now transition to tonight's picks in Major League Baseball, because I got 2 sides that I want to go over, since one of them starts at 7. The second one starts out west. So let's begin with the Braves and the Pirates. They meet up in Pittsburgh, and this isn't Sid Bream and Barry Bonds and Otis Nixon and Mike LaValliere. This isn't those old Braves-Pirates games. Why? Because the Braves are still pretty good, but the Pirates are nowhere near what they were in the Jim Leland days of the early 90s. But you see the Braves are heavy favorites against the Pirates tonight. And Atlanta coming off this series against Houston, in which they took 2 of 3 from the Astros. They lost yesterday. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, we know they're in the dumps. They've struggled, and they lost the last 2 to Cincinnati. They dropped 2 of 3 to Boston. But with all that being said, let's roll it out. Tonight's best bet, take the Pittsburgh Pirates. Why not? We're going to take them plus 170. Roansy Contreras takes the mound for the Pirates, and he hasn't been great for Pittsburgh. He's a young pitcher, but he had 7 strikeouts against the Braves the last time he faced them in Atlanta. Now, the Braves did sweep the Pirates at Truist Park, whatever the new stadium is in Atlanta. Atlanta swept them a few months ago. And Pittsburgh, look, we know Atlanta's a better team. Like, there's no disputing that. In this spot, Jake Odorizzi takes the mound for the Braves. He came over from the Astros. I don't love Jake Odorizzi. 10 earned runs in less than 14 innings of work in his 3 starts since coming to Atlanta. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in this one to beat Atlanta in game 1 of their series at PNC Park. All right. Our second best bet, we are going to look at the Marlins and the A's in Oakland, those 2 old rivals getting at it. And the Marlins, they have had their struggles because they can't score. I believe the number is 21 straight games they've scored 4 runs or less. You're not going to win a lot of games that way. And also in that stretch, they faced the Dodgers, who just swept them, the Padres, who actually played well against, took 2 of 3 from San Diego, and Philadelphia, also in that stretch. So they're playing a lot of teams that are playoff caliber teams in the National League, and the Dodgers' best team in baseball. But Edward Cabrera, Easy Eddie, he goes for the Marlins tonight. He has not allowed a run in 3 starts, in the last 3 starts. I'm going to take the Marlins as a road favorite tonight at Oakland as my second best bet. And the A's send out Adam Oller, who is coming off a win his last time out against the Texas Rangers. And the A's beat the Mariners twice this past weekend as a heavy home underdog. Now they're a home underdog again against the Marlins, who've been terrible. I'm taking the Marlins here. So I'm going to take the Pirates and Marlins as my two best bets for this evening in Major League Baseball. Now we're going to transition to some props. Prop it up. That's what I like to say in this segment. And we're going to look at the highest prop pitchers as well as my two best bets for our props. But before we do that, a quick note. We want to tell you about BetMGM. And there's a great deal at BetMGM right now. If you sign up at BetMGM and you see our man Jamie Foxx on the screen, VegasInsider has teamed up with BetMGM to offer new users an amazing welcome offer. BetMGM Sportsbook is offering an exclusive bonus promo consisting of a $1,000 risk-free bet. Users must use the code VIBonus at sign-up and be located in a legal betting state where BetMGM is licensed. This is for new users only, and full terms and conditions apply. That's right, a $1,000 risk-free bet for new customers only. You can check them out at BetMGM. They are the king of sports books. So that's BetMGM. You can find them in legal betting states. And with that being said, let's go to the strikeout props for tonight. Now, the highest strikeout props on the board are two of the top pitchers in the National League. First, Max Scherzer of the New York Mets, and his strikeout total is set at 7.5 this evening. It's shaded towards the under. This is not one of our best bets, just telling you who the highest strikeout props are in Major League Baseball. But Scherzer of late, as far as strikeouts go, 8, 6, 11. Before that, 5, 6, 8. So really, the strikeout numbers aren't great for Max Scherzer, even though he's been very impressive. But the last time Max Scherzer faced the Yankees, 8.5 was a strikeout total, and he had 6 strikeouts back on July 27th in a win at Citi Field. So you wonder here, do you go the other way? Do you take the over on Max Scherzer, considering now that number has dropped from 8.5 to 7.5 from his last start against the Yankees, and the Yankees offense has been terrible over the last few weeks? Something to consider. Now, the other high strikeout total for tonight is Julio Urias of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they're facing Milwaukee tonight. Now, Urias, he just took on the Brewers at American Family Field, formerly Miller Park. And Urias, his strikeout total was 6.5. He had 6 against Milwaukee back on August 15th was last Monday, so a 4-0 win. And Urias, I mean, I feel like every time Julio Urias takes them out for the Dodgers, they win. They've won each of his last 10 starts. But Urias only went 5 innings in that game and struck out 6. The total was 6.5 in that one. Tonight's total 7.5, under -160. So you know something? You look at both these, and again, not best bets, just throwing this out to you. I got to believe one of those two goes over tonight. Just because I got to believe so. I really got to believe that. But anyway, so those are our two highest strikeout props. Now, I basically peppered you with that. Let's go to our best strikeout props tonight. And we talked about Max Scherzer. His opposing pitcher in that game is Domingo Germán of the New York Yankees. And Domingo Germán, his total is at 4.5 for tonight. We're going to go under the 4.5 for Domingo Germán. Now, one of the reasons why, in that game in which Max Scherzer beat the Yankees, Domingo Germán started for the Bronx Bombers. It's hard when you say New York, New York. You can't say New York when the Mets and Yankees are playing. You have to call them by their names every time. Anyway, so Germán had 7 strikeouts back on July 27th in less than 5 innings of work. Went way over the 3.5 strikeout mark. Now he's up to 4.5 in this game. He had 6 against the Rays in his last start. But I'm going to go under on Domingo Germán strikeouts. I don't think he's going to dominate as much as he did last time against the Mets. So that's our first strikeout prop for tonight. Now let's go to the second one. Germán's old teammate from New York. He's now in St. Louis, Jordan Montgomery. Cardinals faced the Cubs at Wrigley. Cardinals swept the Diamondbacks. Are playing very well. The Cubs played great against the Brewers this past weekend. I mean, Milwaukee's totally fallen apart, but Chicago played well. And you see Jordan Montgomery there, 4.5 strikeouts. Let's go under on that one. and that's plus money, good plus money on that. Montgomery, his last 2 starts, 8 strikeouts apiece. All right, so he has pitched well in his last 2 starts. But that total's still at 4.5. He had 5 strikeouts against the Cubs back on June 11th when he was with the Yankees. He had 7 scoreless innings, totally dominated them. But this is at 4.5. The over was minus 160, minus 170 earlier. And I just can't believe after back-to-back 8 strikeout performances that he's going to do this again. And I know you're asking for even 5 to go over this one, but we're going to go under on Jordan Montgomery strikeouts. So Jordan Montgomery under 4.5, Domingo Germán under 4.5. Those are going to be our 2 prop bets for the night. And I mainly concentrate on strikeouts. I know people want to do total bases and you want the home run bet, so-and-so 4-1. I don't normally do that, so I'm not going to waste your time with that. And the total bases, that's always a tough one. But the strikeout props, I do feel like I have a nice hold of it. I mean, when I win, if I lose, I have no hold of it. But we're going to go with those 2. So that's our look for our baseball plays for tonight. And again, a very light schedule. So we get to tomorrow, we'll have a couple more plays in Major League Baseball just because there's more games. So it's as simple as that. No totals tonight. I don't like any of the totals in Major League Baseball. All right, want to tell you also about some of our hot handicappers of Vegas Insider, because you come to Vegas Insider and we have the articles, we have the odds, we have futures, we have all of that. But we also have our stable of handicappers, and they do a great job. They cover all the sports, and you can find some great packages for these handicappers. We actually have some new handicappers that have joined us in the last month also. So some names maybe you don't recognize that they are new to us, but we welcome them. And let's take a look at some of the handicappers that are red hot right now, first in the NFL. And a couple of the guys, one of them who actually is going to join the show on Thursday is Kevin Thomas. He has won his last 8 in the NFL. ASA, 5-0 in the preseason. They do a great job. Also, ASA in the Big Ten. They are fantastic with that. They've covered the Big Ten for years, and they're out of Wisconsin. So they, not only in the NFL, but also college football, they do a great job with that. And Kevin Thomas, who I'm looking forward to talking to. I've never had him on. Obviously, it was the first night of the show, but even when we had the Daily Insider, never had him on. So looking forward to talking to him about some NFL. But he's on an 8-0 streak, and you can find selections for them, not only for tonight. You have Falcons, Jets, and then going to week 3 of the preseason later on this week, and then, of course, the regular season. So that's who to look for in the NFL. The hot handicappers in Major League Baseball that we're going to keep an eye on as well, and some of the hot streaks that they have. AAA Sports, they're new to Vegas Insider, but they are 7-0 in their last 7 picks. Also, Alex Smart, who we've had on the Daily Insider. We're going to have him come on down to the wire very soon. 6-2, nearly 5 units his last 2 days in Major League Baseball. So check out AAA Sports, Alex Smart. And also, even if we didn't mention them here, these are just the guys that are on fire. You have a lot of other very good handicappers on the site, but a couple of handicappers we wanted to focus on, which we want to do pretty much every night. And when you, on Vegas Insider, you can find picks. If you go towards the right on the top bar underneath the scoreboard, you can see picks, and you can go to their expert records, as well as going to buy picks for any of the sports. And you can check out more hot streaks for a lot of these handicappers, leaderboards, and you can even see the games that our handicappers put up. So if you are liking a game, I want to take the Angels and the Rays tonight. Who's got a pick on that? Oh, okay. Bruce Marshall has a pick on that game tonight, so I think I'm going to go that way. So you have all of that to choose from, and you can find that under our picks at Vegas Insider. So very excited about that too. And we'll have handicappers also from Vegas Insider join us on Down to the Wire. And we will have Kyle Hunter join us on Wednesday night. And Kyle was the college football leader last year in units, and he's great at totals. And he is going to join us coming up on Wednesday to look ahead to week 0 of college football. As even though it's now become a little more popular, it used to be week 0 was 1 or 2 games. Now I believe it's 8 games coming up, at least FBS teams playing each other this weekend. You have actually the game in Dublin, Nebraska, Northwestern. You have a Conference USA game, Charlotte and FAU. So there's a lot going on with college football. So this isn't just going to be an NFL show or Major League Baseball. We're going to have a lot of college football talk as well moving into the season. So it's going to be very exciting for everyone involved with this. So before we exit today, we want to also tell you again, we told you a few minutes ago, we're going to tell you again before we leave about BetMGM, because BetMGM, another great promo they have. We told you about one of the promos earlier with them, but also another promo, which is pretty much geared towards football, is this promo. You see it there on the screen. Bet $10 to win $200. Now, Vegas Insider has teamed up with BetMGM to offer new users an amazing welcome offer for week 1 of the NFL. BetMGM Sportsbook is giving users the option to bet $10 to win $200 if any team scores a touchdown. That's not asking a lot from these teams. Users must use the code VIBonus at sign-up and be located in a legal betting state where BetMGM is licensed. This is for new users only, and full terms and conditions apply. So you bet $10, you win $200 if your team scores a touchdown. And again, for new users only, and that is BetMGM. They are the king of sportsbooks. So coming up tomorrow on the show, we will have Chris Farley. He's going to join us, not the old actor, but Chris Farley from the 33rd, which is a new site. It's pretty cool. They focus on the NFL. And we had Chris on during the Daily Insider. He's got a lot of good knowledge about the NFL. He finished 5th in the Circa a few years ago, either this past season or the year before. But he's got a lot of knowledge with the NFL. So we'll talk to Chris coming up tomorrow. And also we'll have more Major League Baseball plays, prop plays as well. And also we have a segment. We didn't debut it tonight. Probably debut it tomorrow. Questions, comments, concerns. And basically, that is you, the listener, you, the viewer. If you have any questions you want to ask, you have comments, you have concerns, basically a suggestion box for sports betting, you can send it to us. Now, you can go to our my personal Twitter, you see on the screen there, at VI Rogers, also at Vegas Insider, our entire Twitter feed for the site. Use the hashtag, okay, DTTW, down to the wire. I think down to the wire is one word, is a little long, so we'll do hashtag DTTW. And if you have any questions, we will answer them on the air and give you the answer you're looking for. Or if it's something you're not looking for, then too bad. So that's what we're going to do. Starting tomorrow, we'll have that on the show. Questions, comments, concerns at the end before we exit the show. But again, our thanks to Patrick Everson for joining us this evening. He was live at the Cosmo, and Patrick, a great addition to Vegas Insider. He'll have a lot of great information for us, not only here on these videos, he'll have his own videos on YouTube, as well as articles for the site. And also Spencer Ray, who was in his first night, obviously it's our first night too, running the show. Great job, Sparty Spencer. He is going to be a huge part of the show as well, behind the scenes. So Spencer, a great job. I am Kevin Rogers. Don't forget tomorrow, not only at 6 o'clock, our show, Down to the Wire, but at 11 a.m., Chasing That Paper with Joe Osborne. And you can check that out as well on our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider TV. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.